Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is, of course, Thursday, August the 21st, 2025. Of course, we're in the we're of course in the latter half of I believe the fourth week of August here, or the fourth full week, anyways. If you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Of course, we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. Just try to, um, you know, um, just give them a chance to come in, to drop in. We do have a few things to go over tonight, a few stories and all that. So, um, just waiting to see how it shows up. All right. So, hey, Metal, there you are. Okay, so now that we do have at least another person confirmed in here. Oh, and I almost forgot. And I don't know if he's here now, but thank you, Devil Flyer, for popping in to say hi and like and share. All right, so with that, now that we have at least one other person here, let's talk about what's going on for tonight here. So tonight we will be, as I said, we'll go over three stories from Bounding in the Comics, all comics related, all kind of revolving around Marvel, primarily Marvel, but with some DC mixed in there. Um, I'm not here. I'm making champ Irish mashed potatoes. Sounds good. Sounds delicious. Irish mashed potatoes, huh? That does sound like, yeah. That might be interesting if you know we were to have that, and then we were to be surrounded by, of course, the wee little leprechauns from the Novel Tune series. Maybe Yogi Bear. Um, the Porky Pig, maybe Elmer Fudd. Let's see. A lot of the cool cartoon characters and all that. Um, all right. So, anyways, so as I said, and then after, of course, after we get through the three articles, we'll also talk about also be talking a little bit about let's see, wrestling wrap up. We'll have the wrestling wrap up. We'll look back to last night's Dynamite. It's as the card for this Sunday's Forbidden Door pay per view has been finalized, and of course WWE is also counter programming that with Heat Wave in Lowell, Massachusetts. It's also got its kind of little tour leading up to next week's Clash in Paris going on. Then, of course, after that, we'll finish things off with, of course, this day in beach history. So, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started then? And then again, a friendly reminder, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, I'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So let's see here. And of course, I also invite my viewers on Rumble to go ahead and um, again like and share if you can to kind of help us out, um, as well as see if we can get some nice friendly people to engage. Um, we have some people. Yeah, I guess we don't need that one anymore. Uh, and of course, if anything, as I said, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So let's get into the. Let's get into. So we have 3 articles here we're going to go over. Let's start off with this one here. All right. There we go. All right. So Marvel Comics executive editor reveals in small quotes all new, all different Avengers in smaller quote met early end because in small quote champions stole its thunder. Article by Spencer McCauley, published back on August 19th, which of course was a couple of days ago, but this past Tuesday. So let's see what they're saying here on this one. So more than just a smaller quotes, a terrible team lineup on smaller quote, and smaller quotes being released as part of a widely panned publishing initiative on smaller quote. Marvel Comics executive editor Tom Brevoort has revealed that Champions and Marvel Rising were to blame for the short-lived, all-new, all-different Avengers Volume 1 received its early cancellation order. I know that you got Avengers on one side, and you got, I guess you got versions of either side there, I guess. The first proper assembly of Earth's mightiest heroes, following the events of Secret Wars, the Mark Waid penned All New, All Different Avengers Volume 1 saw yet again broke Tony Stark working with Vision and Sam Wilson to take a handful of smaller quote younger generation smaller quote heroes, Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Sam Alexander, Nova, and Jane Foster, Thor, under their wing, in order to both fill the gap in civilian protection left behind by the team's absence and mentor them in the way of proper superheroics. All right, so back to the article here. Yet, despite being the core Avengers series running at the time, the team would ultimately be disbanded after just 15 issues, with the team's older members choosing to carry on the mission with the help of Hercules, Spider-Man, and the Wasp's daughter, Nadia Van Dyne, in Avengers Volume 7, and the younger ones choosing to team up with Amadeus Cho, the Vision's daughter, Viv, and a time-displaced Cyclops to lead their own team in the pages of Champions Volume 2, in parentheses, both titles of which were also helmed by Waid, parentheses there. All right. See, though the switch up unfolded almost a decade ago, its behind the scenes circumstances were recently brought to public attention courtesy of Bravort, who first broached the topic while reflecting on All New, All Different Avengers Annual, Volume 1, Number 1, as part of the August 10th entry of his Man with a Hat Substack blog. So I guess August 10th, that was what? A week ago this past Sunday. So, quote, the all new, all different Avengers Annual Number 1 came out on August 10th, 2016. So I guess nine years prior there, and was one of the most successful things we did during that abortive run, at least from a creative level. I seem to recall that we wound up having to put this book together in a short amount of time, likely to fill some budgetary shortfall caused by some other projects being delayed. Quote, accordingly, writer Mark Wade and I hit on the idea of making the issue an anthology story, focusing on stories written by Ms. Marvel's fanfiction group. This gave us the latitude to deviate wildly from continuity and to do stories that were more broad and bizarre than you might typically find in an issue of Avengers. Yeah, but then again, people may not be interested in when you go when you go astray, as it were. The framing sequence was written by Kamala's creator, G. Willow Wilson, which freed up Wade to do a fun story with Chip Zdarsky. Quote, we also opened up the doors to other creators. So Natasha Allegri contributed a meta She-Hulk adventure. Zach Gorman and Jay Fosgitt incarnated Ms. Marvel and Miles Morales as anthropomorphic animals. Faith Aaron Hicks provided a Squirrel Girl Ms. Marvel throwdown. And Scott Kurtz did a story concerning Kamala's heretofore unknown internet boyfriend. It was a very entertaining annual, but it failed to make much of an impact at all, even with the lovely Alex Ross cover fronting it. But it's a little gem that is worth seeking out on the back issue market, unquote. I guess that's his opinion on it. I don't know if too many people would agree with that, but see, well, metal. If you're don't know if even back then you were reading much Marvel. You have any comments on on what Bravewort's saying here? Well, I guess you do, because All New, All Different was the second worst thing to happen to Marvel right after everything that was connected to Civil War between 06 and 08. All right, so yeah, all right. I mean, you'd almost have to think that if you thought Civil War was bad, and then anything that was kind of birthed out of that probably would have been almost as bad or just as bad as the original material that it was birthed from, right? We, of course, continue on here. Later asked by a fan if he could explain, quote, what made all new, all different Avengers and, in small quotes, abortive run, unquote, the Marvel Comics editor would elaborate in his next blog entry, therein revealing that it was the company's own rush to capitalize on their new legacy heroes that ultimately led to its failure. Again, I would like to Metal. You want to respond to that? You want to respond to that statement? Quote, right after we started all new, all different Avengers, there was a push to do animation and other media with a group of our younger characters. This eventually saw expression as, but initially the thought was that initiative was going to be called Champions, and that's why that series was begun a short away into ANAD Avengers Volume 1's run. All new, all different Avengers. Pretty much tanking the entire premise of that series. Quote, in the end, Champions Volume 2 wound up being a better, more focused series, so it was all for the good. But it meant that the all-new, all-different Avengers Volume 1 run, which we thought would run indefinitely, needed to be terminated a lot earlier than we'd anticipated, unquote. And there we go with that one. Let me see. Let's see if we have any comments here. Well, Metal. Let's see. Metal. Those legacy heroes were always going to be failures. All right. Alrighty then. So very interesting there. And again, a friendly reminder to everybody, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Of course, for both my YouTube and my viewer and my Rumble viewers, don't forget that we are doing a live chat as well. So if you want to comment in the chat, that way I can I will respond. Anyways, getting now to let's get ready to move on to the next article. All right, so 19 minutes. And as I said, we got quite a bit of Marvel, primarily Marvel with some DC crossovers. So, let's find out. Let's move on to this next article here. Marvel Comics kicks off predatory blind bag scheme with, in smaller quotes, ultimate endgame, unsmaller quote, asks fans to gamble for exclusive variant covers. Yeah, I wonder how many fans would actually do that. How many fans would actually, just put their hard-earned money into just, taking a chance of, getting just the one variant you might want, how many would actually roll that dice? And anyways, article by Spencer McCooley, published August 20th, which of course was yesterday. So let's go ahead and see what's going on here. In becoming the latest Western comic book publisher to chase the anti-consumer gotcha trend, Marvel Comics has announced the launch of their, in small quotes, True Believers blind bag program, which, starting with the highly anticipated Ultimate Endgame, will require players to outright gamble for a handful of exclusive variant covers. All right, so just yeah. All right, so written by Dennis Camp, in parentheses, Ultimates Volume 3, with art duties split between Terry Dodson, in parentheses, X-Men Fantastic Four Volume 2, in parentheses, and Jonas Scharf, parentheses, Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion Volume 1, in parentheses. The aptly titled Ultimate Endgame Volume 1 is set to cap off Earth 6160's current overarching storyline, with the return of the Maker, the evil Reed Richards variant, who has spent the last 2 years in a self-imposed exile, preparing to make yet another attempt at remaking the Ultimate Universe in his image. Isn't that what most megalomaniacal villains do? Trying to make universes in their own image. I think wasn't that what Darkseid was trying to do with the anti-life equation in DC? Essentially, the big finale in quotes there, that Camp, Brian Hill, Peach Momoko, or Peach Peach as I like to call her, Chris Condon, and Jonathan Hickman have been building towards. The sheer quality of the current Ultimate line has resulted in Endgame being one of the most genuinely anticipated books across any publisher in recent memory. So, what better opportunity for Marvel Comics to try and further nickel and dime their dwindling readership? Of course, again, feel free to comment and or ask questions if any of this stuff grabs your attention. As officially announced by Marvel Comics, when Ultimate Endgame Volume 1 Number 1 hits shelves on December 31st, it will do so with a handful of its variant covers earmarked for their, quote, first ever blind or bling bag program. Okay, I thought it was blind, but unquote. The aforementioned, in spell was True Believers. Quote, True Believers blind bags give fans a chance to purchase Ultimate Endgame Volume 1 Number 1 in special sealed bags featuring art by Rod Race, that contain one of the issue's many covers, including variant covers only available in True Believers blind bags. All right, so we're back to blind bags now. Bling bags, blind bags. I get the more the idea of the blind bag thing. That's where the gamble comes in because you don't really know what you're gonna get. Hmm. All right, so quote the covers exclusive to the True Believers blind bags also include secret covers that will remain unrevealed until a lucky fan finds them, creating an exciting opportunity for collectors and a new way for local comic shops to engage with customer base. Unquote. Per the announcement, these smaller quotes blind bag exclusive covers on the smaller quote will include version variants for Momoko and Mark Brooks' respective treatments, and in the smaller quote homage variant on the smaller quote by current Marvel artist J.H. Stonehouse, and quote rare secret variant covers by surprise contributors found only in the blind bag that will remain unrevealed till the issue's release. Unquote. Huh. To truly highlight just how audaciously greedy the move is, it should be noted that rather than an at random selection from a specific pool of exclusives, customers who buy a smaller quote true believer blind bag on the smaller quote also runs the risk of pulling one of the book's 13 regular order covers. Somewhat conservatively assuming that there are at least five quote unrevealed unquote covers, that means that odds of pulling any exclusive currently comes in at 38%. So not even quite 40, not even quite 2/5 there. A little closer to like 3/8. Um, while one's hopes of pulling a specific one settling at barely 5% or 1/20th. So to get just any variant, any of the special variant covers, you got about a 3 in 8 chance, and to get a specific one, you got a 1 in 20 chance. Those are real nice odds. But another way, should someone want to get their hands on a specific cover, they'll have to hope for some amazing luck or get ready to pony up an absurd amount of money either in service of buying it outright or for aftermarket prices or purchasing more pulls. As noted above, Marvel Comics is far from the first among among its industry peers to roll the dice on blind bag exclusives. Metal, if you're still here, do you have any comments on the whole concept of blind bag um, promoting? If you're still here, would love to, of course, hear your thoughts on that matter. So, for example, this year's San Diego Comic Con saw IDW team with iconic artist Arthur Adams for a Godzilla themed release. Um, each bag of which contained 3 of 5 exclusive covers, each in one of 5 potential finishes. in parentheses here, which if a publisher is going to play with blind bags is arguably the best way to do it, as a customer is still guaranteed to receive 3 limited edition variants, unsmall quote. And in barely beating their rival to the punch next month, we'll see DC hiding the foil versions of Batman Volume 1, number ones, numerous variant covers behind a similar polybag system. I do need to go off camera here for a moment, so I'll be right back, but I will put some music on for you guys while I'm gone. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So, anyways, getting back to the article here. And then find the cursor here. There we go. All right, so all in all, this move by Marvel Comics and the industry at large comes off less, in smaller quotes, exciting and more, in smaller quotes, desperate for a dollar, and smaller quote. No matter how much marketing speak they attempt to dress it up with. For those interested, Ultimate End Volume 1 and Number 1 is currently set to cap off 2025 with the maker's return on December 31st. So New Year's Eve. And there we go with that one. So, of course, we'll have one more article to go over. All right. So let me... All right, and of course, another friendly reminder to everybody, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. That's, of course, asking for both YouTube and Rumble viewers. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Put it in the chat so that I'll be able to see it, and then I will again try to answer your question best of my ability. You know, all right. It looks like Metal gave us another comment here. Okay, half a gallon of Champ is ready. It sounds like you're gonna have quite a good dinner there, my friend. Sounds like you're gonna have quite a good dinner. So is Champ any part of like Irish stew or anything like that? Just curious. All right. So, anyways, let's get back to the article here. Marvel and DC won't do it. So here's every variant cover for, in small quotes, Batman Deadpool on small quote, and Deadpool Batman on small quote crossovers. Article by Spencer McCooley published yesterday. So here we go. Truth be told, this article really isn't anything substantial in the way of information, debunkings, or hot takes. Rather, what follows is a result of my own live stream discovery, and at present there exists no complete collection of the numerous variant covers being released across DC's Batman Deadpool Volume 1 Number 1 and Marvel Comics Deadpool Batman Volume 1 Number 1. So, whether you're looking to build your own shopping list ahead of their respective releases, and need to grab one of the images for a video thumbnail, or just want to peruse a few fun pieces of some of the industry's top artists, please enjoy what is essentially a one-stop guide to Marvel and DC's next big event. Da 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 da. Oh, and there's Wolverine in there as well. It's mashed potatoes made with butter, whipped cream, and scallions. Um, it's more of a side dish, but it makes a good dessert as well. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you put whipped cream in that. That does sound like an interest. I guess that would be a very interesting textual um, combination there. Whipped cream and potato scallions, butter, and whipped cream. That sounds like a very interesting textural combination. Not whipped cream, whipping cream. Okay, I guess is there? I guess is there a difference? The stuff you make whipped cream out of. Oh, okay. So in a way, you could almost say they are kind of the same because you're basically saying that whipped cream comes from whipping cream. So you know, um, but anyways, regardless, it does sound very interesting. Interesting. I'm sure it's interesting taste wise. It's also interesting texture wise. There is a huge textural difference. All right. All right. Well, you probably know more about it than I do, so I'll just have to. I guess I'll just have to take your word for it, my friend. Hmm. Anyways, back to the article here. Deadpool Batman. The first crossover between the big two since 2003's JLA Avengers Volume 1, The Merc with a Mouse, upcoming meeting with the Dark Knight. Well, the number of other intra-company titles is set to play out in the two aforementioned issues, as respectively produced by each publisher's roster of talent. Hmm. Mhm. All right, so first up is Marvel, whose Deadpool Batman Volume 1, Number 1, featuring a main story written by former Amazing Spider Man Volume 6 lead writer Zeb Well. Oh, great. If I think he's not really considered in high regard by a lot of people. And illustrated by Wolverine's Revenge, Volume 1 artist Greg Capullo, drops first on September 17th. Quote, the crossover you've pined for but never thought possible, Deadpool and Batman cross swords and batarangs as Marvel and DC unite for the first time in decades. Wade Wilson has been hired for a job in Gotham City, but will the world's greatest detective help him or destroy him? Wonder if Axis is pretty busy there with that. In addition to this title bout, quote, the one shot will also feature additional backup stories, spotlighting other exciting Marvel and DC team ups from a lineup of all star talent, including Daredevil and Green Arrow by Kevin Smith and Adam Kubert, Jeff the Land Shark in Crypto by Kelly Thompson and Gurihiru, Captain America and Wonder Woman by Chip Zdarsky and Terry Dodson, Rocket Raccoon and Green Lantern by Al Ewing and Dyke Ruan, and Wolverine, Old Man Logan, and Batman, The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. Quote, we're going to all corners of the Marvel and DC universes, and the creators are having an absolute blast finding the unexpected and unexplored connections between these characters, unquote. Editor Mark Basso shared, quote, we can't wait for the fans to experience the same jaw-dropping moments we are. And we've got some more secret stories in the works, so keep your eyes peeled for more to be revealed, unquote. I kind of like that moniker too, the Merc with the Mouth. All right, so, anyways. Hmm. All right, back to the articles here. Quote, this has been surreal, to say the least, unquote, Zdarsky said. Quote, Captain America and Wonder Woman are the best their worlds have to offer. Both warriors for peace, getting to explore a dynamic and history between them has been genuinely exciting, unquote. Now, of course, as we all know, both Captain America and Wonder Woman, were initially created around the time of World War II was breaking out. Quote, two icons meeting for the first time, unquote, Thompson said. Quote, it's such an honor for Jeff to get to be Marvel's ambassador in this crossover story with Crypto. Anyone who loves comics know knows how rare it is for DC and Marvel to cross over. So Jeff getting to be part of a historic moment um, with Crypto and Guri Hiru and I getting to bring that tale to readers. Um, well, sometimes this job is very cool, unquote. Quote, the pairing of Rocket Raccoon and Green Lantern felt very random. Um, excuse me a moment. I gotta go off camera here and get one more time. I'll be right back. Let me put some music on while I'm gone. Alright, sorry about that. Anyways, let's get back to the article here. Alright, so let's see. So quote here, pairing of Rocket Raccoon and Green Lantern felt very random when I was assigned it, but you can chart a line between you can chart a line between any two characters, and that'll take you through a kaleidoscope of connections between one universe and the other, and that's what we've done, unquote, said Ewing. Speaking to Entertainment Weekly in promotion of the one shot, Wells asserted, quote, after writing Amazing Spider-Man for 60 issues, I told Marvel I needed a break. Marvel told me I could do that, or I could write a comic starring Deadpool and Batman with the best Batman artist of our generation. I no longer needed a break. Okay, unquote. Quote, in Batman, we found someone who is even less, who has even less time for Deadpool's antics than Wolverine. But a citywide threat from the Joker makes strange bedfellows. Parentheses, literally, Deadpool had his way, unquote, or unparentheses rather. It's been a blast letting Deadpool loose in Gotham City and watching what happens. Adding his thoughts, Capullo likewise beamed, quote, am I dreaming? This crossover is likely to be the high point of my career. And I've had a great career, unquote. Quote, some of my earliest work, many years ago, in parentheses there, was on X-Force, so Deadpool and I go way back. More recently, I spent 10 plus years drawing Batman at DC, The idea that I get to do a crossover event with Deadpool and Batman. If I am dreaming, please don't wake me. Please don't wake me. Unquote. Huntress and Psylocke right there. Further, Marvel Comics president Dan Buckley affirmed a lot of things have to align, quote unquote, for the crossover to get off the ground. Quote, mostly we plan our editorial schedule pretty far out. DC does their schedule pretty far out. You want to have the right talent involved because with this type of thing, you want to elevate it as much as you can to get people excited. Unquote. Quote, that's how I feel about what, in brackets, Wells is putting together now. And I know Mr. Capullo will deliver spades on the emotional storytelling and all the action because that's what he does every time he does his story. Let's see. Quote, it just felt like a fun combo. I'll be quite frank, it was nothing more complicated than that. Like Deadpool hanging out with Batman, there's a lot of levity to be had in there, a lot of fun, and it would also be a little bit uber violent at the same time. Our big thing is we want to do something that is a lot of fun, showcase comics, generate excitement, and bring new readers or lapsed readers back into the industry, unquote. Anyways, I need to go off camera here for a moment. I'll be right back. All right, anyways, getting back to the article here. Batman Deadpool. Next up comes DC's Batman Deadpool #1, which follows on November 19th, and we'll see All-Star Final Crisis Volume 1 scribe Grant Morrison and the publisher's current artistic workhorse Dan Mora team up for a more, in small quotes, meta take on the entire situation. Quote, what happens when the world's greatest detective meets the merc with a mouth? Reality folds in on itself. Archetype um, archetypes collide. Dark side is, and somewhere between Apocalypse and Earth, TRN 666, a sentient street named Danny, hums show tunes about a crusading cape. Quote, but DC's Batman Deadpool #1 isn't just a comic book crossover between iconic publishers, it's a metaphorical car crash between two storytelling philosophies. One character broods in the shadows of trauma and justice, the other cartwheels through chaos, breaking the fourth wall and occasionally the laws of physics. Quote, together they're forced to confront a threat that doesn't just endanger their worlds, it questions their very existence as fictional constructs. Quote, with a main story by Grant Morrison and Dan Mora, Batman Deadpool #1 launches a reality-bending saga that's equal parts cosmic horror, slapstick noir, and meta-fictional therapy session. It's the kind of comic book that knows it's a comic book, reveals in being a comic book, weaponizes its comic book bookiness, okay, and dares you to keep reading anyways. Quote, buckled into the seatbelt of Morrison and Mora's Batmobile, four all-star bonus stories come roaring in, each created by a bona fide who's who of comic book creators. Quote, comic legends collide as Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV, and Joshua Williams join forces with Hayden Sherman to conjure a spellbinding Constantine um, meets Doctor Strange saga. Quote, Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo deliver a kinetic, emotionally charged encounter between Nightwing, um, Dick Grayson, and Wolverine, Laura Kinney, where acrobatics meet adamantium in a story that cuts deep. Ha ha! Quote, Mariko Tamaki and Amanda Connor unleash chaos and charisma in a riotous Harley Quinn versus Hulk show. Oh boy, that sounds like wild. While G. Willow Wilson and Dennis Cowan electrify the page with high voltage tales starring Static and Miss Marvel. Offering a statement to the aforementioned EW, Entertainment Weekly, Morrison beamed, quote, I don't do many comics these days, but there was no way I could turn down the chance to work with Dan Mora again, one of my all-time favorite artistic collaborators, and definitely no way I could turn down Batman and Deadpool. Quote, expect fourth wall busting, mayhem owls, blood, blades, and at least one giant typewriter, unquote. For Moore's part, he likewise told the outlet, quote, "This is more than I ever imagined I could do in my career, and it is a huge honor to be part of this crossover. It doesn't happen too often, and I am a huge Deadpool fan." Quote, "When I first worked with Grant, I didn't know what to expect, but it was an incredible team up. I always hoped to work with Grant again. Working on Batman is like a dream come true. Grant and I working together on this once-in-a-lifetime project is going to be such a fun experience." Adding his thoughts to the mix, current DC Chief Creative Officer Jim Lee admitted that such a team-up, quote, "happens kind of once every generation of readers," unquote. Quote, I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions as to why. The timing has to be right, that you don't want to do these too often. You want them to feel special. It is sort of finding the right moment for both companies to come together, and because it is complex. There's a lot more coordination, collaboration, approvals, let's see, to be done. And obviously, from a business side, you're sharing revenue, and it's going to be a big deal. So you want the story creatively to warrant the type of it all. A hype of it all. All right. Quote, anyone that's working in comics today grew up with a Marvel DC crossover at some moment in their reading timeline. I think once you become a creator, you want to work on the biggest characters for both companies. But then, to be able to do something that only happens every 15, 20 years, it is something you don't want to pass up. All right. I'm going to go off camera one more time here. Sorry about this. I know it's really acting up tonight. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. I said my nose has been acting up tonight. So anyway, let's see if there's any new comments coming in. Nope. All right, again, if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the question to the best of my ability. So, getting back to the article here. Quote, so I think fans are going to see a lot of interesting projects um, from their favorite creators. That's all I can say, unquote. Sort which is Zatara. And as it's standard nowadays, each issue will be getting their own respective blank covers. While Deadpool Batman Volume 1, Number 1 will also be getting a mashup logo variant. In parentheses, update August 20th. It looks like fans will also be getting a variant illustrated by penciler Alessandro Capuccio and colorist Mata Iacono, depicting the main man hanging out with one of the baddest uh, vestiges in the Marvel Universe. All right, so there we go. So that's all we got on the stories tonight. So of course we are running a little long here, so I'll try to get through the last two portions of the show, the wrestling wrap up and the This Day in Each History segments as quickly as I can. So we're gonna move right into the wrestling wrap up. Because all right. So anyways, all right. So anyways, as we get into this, come on. All right. So looking back to last night's AEW Dynamite. So the opening match saw Hiroshi New Japan's Hiroshi. Okay, so last night's Dynamite came to us from the Ovo Hydro in Glasgow, Scotland, with of course Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, and Bryan Danielson on commentary. Recorded earlier in the day as they were over in England, obviously. In the opening six-man tag match, New Japan's Hiroshi Tanahashi and Jet Speed of Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight, and the Jet Kevin Knight, defeated the Death Riders of Claudio Castagnoli, John Moxley, and Wheeler Yuta with Marina Shafir, which eventually led to a big brawl ahead of their upcoming Lights Out Steel Cage match coming up this Sunday at Forbidden Door. Let me see. Also, in the finals for the match to see who would face AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Hurt Syndicate, Brodito of Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito and Brody King, and FTR of Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler went to a time limit draw. Tony Khan then came out and announced that it would be a triple threat match for the AEW World Tag Team titles at Forbidden Door, as both Brodito and FTR would get a chance at the Hurt Syndicate in a three-way match. And then the main event saw Ring of Honor Women's World Champion Athena and TBS champion Mercedes Moné defeat their upcoming opponents Alex Windsor and AEW World Champion Tony Storm. Also, some other major events happened on last night. It was also announced that they did announce Stardom's participant in the four-way for the TBS title, and that will be Bozilla, coming off of her quarterfinal loss in the 5-star Grand Prix in Stardom. It was announced that she'd be heading over to England to challenge for the AEW TBS title. Also, MJF was able to scheme his way once again to getting his way, as he with the help of Ricochet and the Gates of Agony, took Mark Briscoe hostage to force Hangman Adam Page to accept his terms. One, that their world title match, the title can change hands on a DQ or count out. Normally that is not the case. Also, he gets to hold on to his, now last week Adam Page had gotten MJF to basically say he would use his contract, only for this to happen to let MJF hold on to the contract. And if Adam Page did not agree to it, they were going to burn Mark Briscoe alive. So, some character, isn't he? Anyways, moving on now to look ahead to tonight's wrestling action. And then we will, of course, talk about Sunday as well. So on Impact tonight, the 1100th episode of Impact, coming from the Chesapeake Employees Arena in Baltimore, Maryland. In a number one contenders gauntlet match, Rosemary will be taking on Isaiah Brookside. They'll also be taking on Danny Luna, Killer Kelly, Indy Hartwell, and Jody Threat will all be involved in that match. Frankie Kazarian takes on Jake Something. In a 6-man tag match, Matt Cardona teams with the Systems, Moose and Brian Myers to take on Order 4 of Mustafa Ali and the great hands of Jason Hotch and John Schuyler. And also, on tonight's Ring of Honor Honor Club, 130th episode of that, coming from the Berglund Center in Roanoke, Virginia. Opening match will... hold on. The opening match will see the Beast Mortos with LFI members Dralistico and Roosh in his corner, taking on AR Fox. Jay Lethal takes on the Don Callis family's Hechicero. Trisha Dora will be taking on Janai Kai. Beef takes on Blake Christian, who will have Lee Johnson in his corner. And the main event we'll see in a match for the CMLL World Trios titles. El Sky team of Mascara Dorado, Mystico, and Neon will be taking on Los Desperados of Magnus, Rugito, and Volador Jr. Now, of course, moving on to Sunday. And we'll move on to Sunday here. Actually, even before we get to AEW, let's talk a little bit about what WWE will be doing this Sunday. As this Sunday, coming from Lowell, Massachusetts, WWE will be. Actually, no, I can wait. I can actually wait on that until Friday, till tomorrow, because after all, we'll be talking about SmackDown tomorrow, anyways. I'll just talk about that tomorrow. But for AEW, coming up this Sunday will be, of course, Forbidden Door from England. Let's see. Coming up live from the O2 in London, England. Of course, the 0 hour pre-show will be on YouTube prior to the event. And then getting to the main card is how the main card is filled out. I believe this is a finalized match. Only match we'll see in a tag team match. Adam Copeland and Christian Cage and Adam Copeland will be taking on the Matriarchy. In this case, it's going to be Killswitch, who made his return at last night's Dynamite, and Kip Sabian. They'll have Mother Wayne in their corner. Of course, Killswitch will be coming in for the injured Nick Wayne. Kyle Fletcher is set to defend the TNT title against Hiromu Takahashi. I believe he's part of the Los Factions Ingobernables Japan faction in New Japan. As a previously mentioned 4-way match for the TBS title, Mercedes Moné will be defending against Alex Windsor, representing AEW, Persephone representing CMLL, and Bozilla representing Stardom. In a 3-way elimination match for the AEW World Tag Team titles, the Hurt Syndicate will be fending off the challenges of FTR, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler, and Brodito of Bandito and Brody King. In a match for the unified titles of the Continental and International title, Kazuchika Okada will be defending against Swerve Strickland. Tony Storm is set to defend the AEW Women's World title against Ring of Honor World Champion Athena. Coming off of his win in the 4-way match at this past Saturday's Collision, Nigel McGuinness with Daniel Garcia in his corner will be challenging for the IWGP World Heavyweight title against Zack Sabre Jr. Adam Page is now set to defend the world title against MJF. The match is already set, but some new stipulations. The title can now, of course, change hands on a DQ or a count out, which normally that would not be allowed, and MJF gets to hold on to his gauntlet contract. That if he does come up short here, then he can challenge again whenever he wants. And then in a lights out steel cage match, Darby Allin, the Golden Lovers of Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay and Hiroshi Tanahashi, be taking on the Death Riders of Gabe Kidd, and the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson. All right, so that's all we got for the wrestling wrap-up. All we got for the wrestling wrap-up. So now we're going to move on to this day in each history. Let's see, 1996. 1965, of course. Let's see. 2020 and let's see, 1985. All right. And of course, because it's been heated up here. All right. So, anyways, okay. So, anyways, heading back. So it's time for this day in each history. History. So, first off, we're going to head back 60 years ago today. And on this date, 60 years ago today, on this date, 60 years ago today, the Crusher defeats Mad Dog Vachon in St. Paul, Minnesota, to become the new become the new AWA world title. Also, Gene Kiniski wins the World Wrestling Association title from Dick the Bruiser in Indianapolis. So there are actually a couple of titles that changed him. So the Crusher becomes the AWA world title by defeating Mad Dog Vachon, St. Paul, Minnesota, while in Indianapolis, Gene Kiniski defeats Dick the Bruiser to become the World Wrestling Association World Heavyweight Champion, the WWA World Champion. So now, as we prepare to move on to the next thing here, as we move ahead to the year 1985. On this date in the year 1985, 40 years ago today, the Last Red Soldier from Armored Troopers Votoms, The Last Red Soldier, was a 50-minute OVA released on this date back in 1985. The storyline takes place after the Voodoo storyline in the TV series. It details Chirico meeting with his old comrades in his old military unit and their plan to get revenge on General Pilsen. So 40 years ago today, the 50-minute OVA, Armored Troopers Votoms, The Last Red Shoulder, was released on this date back in 1985. All right, so now let me see now. So moving ahead to the year 1996, on this date in the year 1996, this date in the year 1996. The 25th issue of the 5th volume of Aquaman went on sale in comic shops. On this date back in 1996, that was, of course, 29 years ago, sold for $1.75, 32 pages. The story was Betwixt and Between, as written by Peter A. David, with art by Martin Egland. Howard M. Shrum did the inking, lettering done by Albert Tobias de Guzman, and Tom J. McCraw did the coloring. And finally, we move on to the year 2020. 5 years ago today, on this date 5 years ago today, on this year 5 years ago today, 5 years ago today, 20th Century Fox's Hoops premiered on this date 5 years ago today. Hoops is an American adult animated sitcom created by Ben Hoffman for Netflix. It premiered on August 20th to extremely negative reviews. In December 2020, Netflix canceled the series after one season. So, Hoops from 20th Century Fox premiered on this date 5 years ago. With that, I do thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.